reason why you keep your limiting beliefs is because you fight to keep them. Tooth and nail, you scratch, claw, itch your way to keep those limitations. You fight for your limitations on a day to day basis. And you may think that you're doing the work. You may think to yourself, well, I'm being more positive and I'm thinking in a different way and I'm allowing myself to engage different emotions, etc. But yet, time and time again, when those old belief systems, when those limitations pop up, you find a way to defend them. And all of us have done this, and all of us continue to do this until we actually realize the foundational flaw in this, until we actually internalize just how destructive it is to keep limiting beliefs around us. Now, I'm currently working on a new book, and there's a chapter I wrote out which said, your belief systems or your limiting belief systems are trash. And I mean that in the most literal sense. Your limiting belief systems are absolute toxic waste. They are garbage. There is no purpose that they actually serve. We convinced ourselves over a lifetime that we need these beliefs. We convinced ourselves that these beliefs serve us in some way. They protect us, maybe socially, right? Just so people don't see me as crazy, I'm going to keep these belief systems. Yet when it's all said and done, all those beliefs are doing are keeping us stuck. They're keeping us in the very same place of misery and unfulfillment. They're keeping us apart from our dreams, our visions, our ambitions in life. They're keeping us away from the truth. They're keeping us away from power. When we keep a limiting belief in limbo, and that is any limiting belief, I don't care how reasonable or rational the thought may be, anything that places a limitation on you is a problem. Anything. Like I used to think to myself, well, I have to safeguard myself against, these expectations of expecting too much. So let's say a belief that it's going to take me 2 years to build up 1 million followers, right? Just throwing that out there. If that's the belief I'm holding, that's inherently a limiting belief. I'm saying, no, you don't understand. I have to wait 2 years in order for this thing to happen. I'm limiting myself in that 2 year span. Instead of saying it could happen today, it could happen tomorrow. It's currently happening at this very moment in time. Instead of choosing to allow whatever is to happen and to happen without any guardrails, without any limitations, I put that limitation on it. Now, you may think to yourself, 2 years for 1 million, that's incredible, right? That's amazing. Oh my goodness. If I was able to get, 1 million followers in 2 years, it would change my entire life. And I completely get that. However, when you start to put stipulations on what it's going to take for you to get a certain result, that's a limitation. And I don't care who says it. I don't care if it's Mark Cuban on Shark Tank. I don't care if it's Kevin Hart in his interviews, right? I don't care who's telling you. They tell it's going to take 10 years to become successful. That's a limiting belief. That is a limiting belief. It takes hard work, perseverance. That's a limiting belief. It is limiting you to say the only way that you can get to your goal, to your result, is by these things. And your subconscious mind is always listening. Everything you are telling it, everything you're repeating to it, everything that you are digesting and accepting as reality, it is going to give you back. It's going to spit it back out to you as your life experience. That is a universal law. That is universal principle. I don't make the rules up. I just get the information out there, right? So when we find ourselves in a place where we are feeling stuck or we feel as if our life is in limbo, we're feeling as if there's a hamster wheel experience that we're having in this current reality, it is for no other reason that we're keeping ourselves there. Nobody is doing it to you. Nobody's doing it to me. I know. Trust me. It's so much, sometimes more fun, but it's so much easier to just blame it on anybody else, to blame it on something external, to blame it on the government, to blame it on my mama, my daddy. It's easier to blame it on, blame it on the alcohol. It's easier to blame it on anything besides taking personal accountability for your own life and to say, the reason I have the results I have in my life, like the reason I'm here, right now, at this very moment in time, while you're watching this, with everything you see around me, is because of the belief systems that I allowed to perpetuate. There are certain beliefs that I allowed, certain limiting beliefs that I allowed, as well as those that I let go of that got me to the exact place I am right now. You can test this out in the smallest ways in your life. Simply make a decision to let go of the smallest little belief, whatever it may be, and see what starts to happen to you. Even there's a belief that almost all of us hold that you have to do a physical activity in order to get better at that thing. So let's say you got to shoot the basketball in order to get better at the basketball. Yet they've done study after study, true studies. I'm talking about with entire test groups, etc., where they have one group who is shooting free throws every single day for a few months. and they're supposed to get better that way. One group who is only doing it in their imagination, so they're playing it over in their head. And the last group who's doing nothing at all. And they bring all three groups after 3 months or whatever the time was. And they find that not only did obviously the group who practiced physically get significantly better at shooting these free throws, but the group who did it psychologically only were just as good. And these were newcomers. These weren't people who were playing. These weren't hoopers for real, right? These were individuals who were amateurs at best. This is your basic YMCA type of crowd, right? So think about this. Both groups were equally yoked in how they shot them free throws, and one was doing it physically, the other one's doing it mentally. Now imagine if you told yourself the only way that I can improve in something, the only way I can do something is by doing it physically. And so you will exert yourself physically to do things, not understanding the power of psychology, not understanding the power of how your brain actually works, how this processor operates. So instead of using this to your advantage in the way we're supposed to use it, instead of using it as one of your most powerful tools in life, you might use it against yourself because you're feeding it ideas that are only going to keep you bound, that are going to keep you stuck and keep you limited. I had to get rid of this belief system of how long it's supposed to take to get to whatever result. They told me you're supposed to have a channel for 2 years and do this and don't do that, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that in order to get monetized. Guess what? My monetization happened within the span of about 5 months of me actually really going in on YouTube. And you may think, well, it's because you put out a video every single day. Yeah, there's a whole lot of people doing something every single day and they're not getting the result. And there's other people who are doing it once a year, and they're getting infinitum results. It's all about the belief system that we hold, and it's how we see ourselves. What do we believe about ourselves? Because the limitations that we hold on to are nothing more than what we believe we deserve, nothing more than how we perceive ourselves. What do I deserve in this life? Do I believe that I deserve the very best of life or not? If we just could crunch the numbers, if we could go down to the most minute detail, every single limiting belief that we hold is simply saying, I don't deserve, right? That's it. And we have to transition from I don't deserve to I am deserving of all things. I'm deserving of the greatest and highest good in life. We have to come back to a place where we remember that this life is our inheritance. This is being given to us to enjoy, all of it to enjoy. That there is no limitation, that there are no boundaries, that we're the only ones who set the parameters of the game. That's why you have one person who's playing on the smallest sector of the land and somebody who owns all of the land, right? You have somebody who's working on a few crops and another person who owns the entire industry. And we think to ourselves, because, well, I'm not even going to say we're uneducated about it, but instead because this is a place of jealousy, oftentimes a place of envy, right? Where we see somebody having and we feel deprived, so we start to project our own insecurities onto them. We view that person as being evil, bad, wrong, whatever it may be, because they're prospering. That's called haterism. That's haterade within your cup. What you sipping on is haterade at that moment. You might not want to admit it, but you are. I made an entire video about the confessions of a hater because I realized that I was being a hater towards those who had the very things that I desired most. And once I got honest about that, I was finally able to open myself up to a completely different world, to allow myself to experience more of life as opposed to clinging on to my limitations. They're not even mine, by the way. Limitations that were given to me, right? Because I wasn't born with them. You see these little reels and shorts and things of that nature with little kids and they're doing stuff and you're like, what in the mess is this? And I saw a caption recently that said, this is what a kid does. This is because nobody was around to tell them it was impossible. Nobody was around to tell them no. And that hit home for me. I said, damn, what would it look like if I never heard it's impossible? You end up having the Serena and Venus Williams at 12, 13 years old being the greatest, tennis players in the world. You end up having a Tiger Woods by the time he's 6, 7 years old. He's already a prodigy on his way. That's because there's an individual or two individuals in their life or more who pour into them as opposed to stripping away from them, who tell them what they can do as opposed to all the things that they cannot do. And so you have to be that person for yourself. You got to be that cheerleader for yourself. You got to be the individual who continues to feed that fire within yourself. It is your job and your job only, your responsibility. You are grown. Whether you're 12, 13, 14, right now, if you're listening to this, or you're 50, 60, 70, it is your job and your responsibility to pour into yourself, to believe in yourself at a place that is so unperceivable. Like the rest of the world thinks you probably lost it. You understand? And they're, of course, going to think you lost it because they themselves do not believe in themselves, right? If you bring self-belief into a room of individuals who are self-doubters, they're going to look at you as strange. They're going to look at you as arrogant. They're going to see you as cocky. They're going to see you as selfish or whatever it is. And these are things I used to fear. That's the reason why I wrote this entire book, Doing Me Guilt-Free. There are aspects of, myself, like trying to be good, right? Trying not to be seen as selfish. These are the things that I was so fixated upon. And I was praying to God Almighty, please don't let people see me as anything either than this nice, good person who is acceptable in the eyes of others. And now I'm on the complete polar end. I do not give a damn. Even though I am in the public light more than ever before, I don't give a damn what the next person has to say about me. Because frankly, as the old cliche goes, it's none of my business. It really isn't. I have business. My business is what I do. My business is my life, is the things that I enjoy, the things that fulfill me. My business is the ones around me who I love most, right? The ones who I take care of me. That's my business. I'm my business. What your perception is, the next person's perception is, even the people around me's perception is of me, that's none of my business. And so I have to do what is best for me, which is also inherently going to be what's best for everybody else, which is pouring into myself. Nobody has ever stripped the limitations from their life and has done the rest of the world a disservice in the doing so. Now, if your ego is controlling you, of course, you're going to cause, disaster in the world. That's for anybody. It's if you're going to do it at the smallest scale or at the highest scale, it's the very same thing. But when you allow yourself to be led by spirit or in spirit, inspired in life, when you're moving from that space, you can't help but do the very best on everybody's behalf. And you simply do it by stripping away those limiting beliefs, those limitations, every belief system, every story that you've been telling yourself, everything that anybody told you about life and you just accepted. We heard stuff coming up and we just took it. We took it and we implemented it. Or we thought, oh, that's right. That's why I take people off these pedestals. I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care if you made $100 billion. You probably have a limitation. They talk about Elon Musk. Yeah, these two heroes, Buzz Aldrin and Armstrong, right? And I think it was Armstrong, but Buzz Aldrin was for sure one of them. And he was, huge fan. He'd been reading all these sci-fi books his entire life, space books, etc. He loves space. And he meets these guys and he tells them his brilliant plan of SpaceX, and they tell him it's never going to work. Those guys said it's never going to work. It's never been done and will never be done. There's a reason why it hasn't been done. You know how they get down. And he said, what? Oh, heck no. And from that day on, those heroes were depedestalized. He took them off the pedestal and he did what he wanted to do. And he built SpaceX and he did things that the US government had not been able to do in damn near 100 years or more. And he did so because he was not willing to buy into the limitations of the other individual. Regardless of how certified that individual may have been, regardless of how esteemed this individual may have been, that person's advice is nothing more than their own take on their own life. And a lot of people are jaded off of their lives. So they'll give you jaded advice, even if they seem successful now. You ask a real estate mogul, how do you become a real estate mogul? And they might tell you it's going to take you 50 years of getting punched in the teeth. They might tell you advice like that because that's their own experience and they don't even understand, or they might not be completely conscious that the reason they had that experience is because they had a belief that that's what they had to go through. They were told you have to grind, persevere, struggle, toil, right? Do the things you don't want to do. Those type of messages that we continue to rehash and think we're impressive by doing so. I'm letting go of that story. You can choose any story you want, by the way. That's the thing. Right? You write the book, so you can choose the struggle, perseverance, this, that, so other people can worship you and, and bow at your feet. Oh my goodness. Wow. What a perseverer. I don't care about none of that anymore. I want to have the most seamless journey possible. I want to have the most easy and certain journey. And that is the one I choose. Why? Because it's a choice. It's on the table. Why would I not choose the thing that I want at the buffet? Why would I go and pick the things I don't want? Oh, but I have to eat this. No, I don't. I'm going to eat what is going to serve me best, period. As far as the next person, that's on them. And some people are going to talk to you the whole time. I can't believe you're eating that. Why are you choosing that? Why is that the thing you want to eat? But they can go on and on and on for the rest of their lives. They will continue to live in their struggle circle and you will continue to live in the power circle. So again, one more again before I get up out of here. First published book, Doing Me Guilt-Free, breaking free from people pleasing, because it's necessary in this life. It's the only way to freedom. And stepping into your true power. Make sure you get yourself a copy by clicking the link in the description below. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until the next time, namaste. Namaskar.